Good morning. Whether you're here in person or watching from home, it's good to be with you this morning. It's good for all of us to be together. As we gather together this morning, let me share with you words from our own Singing the Living Tradition hymnal. May love make a bridge from heart to heart and hand to hand. May love find a way when laws are blind and freedom banned. May love lift the hopes that force and fear have beaten down. May love break the chains and give us strength to stand our ground. May love make a bridge that winds may shake, yet not destroy. May love carry faith through life and death to endless joy. Come, my friends, with our hearts open to both the challenges and the possibilities that this new day and this new week bring, and with our hearts open to all that inspires, sustains, redeems, and transforms us, come, let us worship together.
There's a wolf that preys on a world that strays so far from the garden. And just like your own, every heart you know seems cold and hardened. You may not have the stage, but you still have a voice. You may not have the strength, but if you have a choice, even if you think you're not enough. Oh, I dare you to love. We're all full of hope, trying to stay afloat, trying to save one another. People let you down 'cause they don't know how to stay above water. When they're too broken to know what they put you through, do the only thing that you'd want done to you. I dare you to love. 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 And you can only see the worst, even if you think you're not enough. I dare you to love. Oh, even if you're hurt and you can only see the worst, I dare you to love. Even if you think you're not enough, oh, I dare you to love. I dare you to love. I dare you to love.
Wonderful. The flaming chalice is the symbol of the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the liberal religious tradition to which this congregation belongs. Will those of you here in person please stand as you are able for our chalice lighting And if you have a chalice at home, I invite you to light yours with me now. Saying together now, as we kindle this flame, we recommit ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to build a Unitarian Universalist community that transforms lives and empowers people to serve the world. May the light of this flame be welcoming to all who seek a liberal religious home. And for those of you already standing, I invite you to remain standing for our opening hymn, number 1014, Standing on the Side of Love, and John and Diane will lead us.
The promise of the Spirit, faith, hope, and love abide. And so every soul is blessed and made whole. The truth in our hearts is our guide. We are standing on the side of love. Hands joined together as hearts beat as one. Emboldened by faith, we dare to proclaim we are standing on the side of love. Sometimes we build a barrier to keep love tightly bound, corrupted by fear, unwilling to hear, denying the beauty we found. We are standing on the side of love, hands joined together with hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith. We dare to proclaim we are standing on the side of love. A bright new day is dawning, when love will not divide. Reflections of grace in every embrace, fulfilling the vision divine. We are standing on the side of love, joined together with hearts beat as one, emboldened by faith. We dare to proclaim we are standing on the side of love. We are standing on the side of love.
Thank you. Please be seated. My name is Sarah Ford-Knorr. I'm one of your worship associates, and if you are visiting us for the first time this morning, I'd like to offer you a very special welcome. Here at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Raleigh, we are intentionally inclusive, liberally religious, and actively serving the common good of our shared world. Whoever you are and wherever you are on your own religious journey, you are welcome here. As Unitarian Universalists, we seek wisdom and inspiration from many sources, but we affirm our individual experience and conscience is the best authority for our beliefs. We believe that the purpose of religion is to help us live most fully within this lifetime and to make the world a better place, and we believe that religious community helps us to do those things. We hope that you might join us in some of the many things we do together to grow our own souls and to make the world more compassionate and more just. If you're visiting us for the first time, I invite you to stop by our welcome stand, which is in the foyer, if you haven't already done so. And if you're a return visitor, you can pick up a more permanent name tag at that same welcome stand. If you're visiting us online, I invite you to fill out our online visitor form. And if you do this, you'll start receiving our weekly e-newsletter. I hope all of you will read through the chalice you received by email on Thursday about everything happening here at UUFR. Today, our in-person social hour will be outside on the upper balcony, And for those of you watching from home, there are instructions on how to join our Zoom social hour on the front page of our website. Next, I'll invite you to meet and greet your neighbor. Since children and youth are among us this morning, please make sure to say hello to them too. Good morning. All right, we'll look forward to continuing these conversations at social hour after the service. This is the time of the morning when we acknowledge some of the joys and sorrows of our community. We do this because that we believe that a joy shared is a joy made greater, and a sorrow shared is made easier to bear. Anyone is invited to email their joy or sorrow to joysandsorrows@uufr.org before 9 a.m. on Sunday, or to light a candle before the service and place a card if you'd like to have your joy or sorrow acknowledged from the pulpit. Robin Kitson shares with us that her brother, Sonny Bodden, died on June 16th. May his memory be a blessing. And this morning we lit a candle in acknowledgement of the sadness, anger, and fear many of us have regarding the U.S. Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. In the coming days, may we each ask what we might do as individuals and as a community to help make sure that women have the right to make their own medical decisions. As we hold these shared sorrows in our heart and reflect on the joys, the sorrows, the fears, and hopes of our own lives, let's be together in stillness and in silence, opening ourselves to that spirit within us and amidst us, called by many names, but known to every human heart, that leads us to a fuller, deeper, and richer experience of life. After the silence, we'll sing hymn number 1053, but now let's be together in stillness and in silence.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Thank you, Diane and John. French-American Quaker Etienne de Graillet wrote this: "I expect to pass through this world but once. Any good thing, therefore, that I can do, or any kindness that I can show to any fellow creature, let me do it now. Let me not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again. Everything we do at UUFR is only possible because of the generous financial support that so many of us provide. But one Sunday each month we designate as a Justice Sunday, and all of the money collected on that Sunday is given to a local or national nonprofit or group. And today is our Justice Sunday, and our Justice Council has designated our own UUFR Stitchers as the recipient of today's offering, and Louise LaPlante is here to tell us more.
Hello, everyone. I'm Louise LaPlante. I've been a member of UUFR for 26 years, and I've held many leadership positions in many committees and ministries. Now I'm active on the care team and the UUFR Stitchers, who create many beautiful items for social justice activities. The UUFR Stitchers meet twice a month here in Founders Hall. We knit, crochet, hats, scarves, mittens, Afghans, baby loveys, and other items. The group was created in 2018, and we have about 12 members. The work is meaningful to me because I'm happy that a skill I learned as a girl can create hats and other items for people who need warm clothing in the winter. I have so much that giving to help others helps me grow spiritually. I think about the person who may receive the hat and hope that they enjoy wearing it as much as I have enjoyed knitting it. The list of groups we donate to are the Blount Street Community Engagement Center, formerly known as Love Wins, Note in the Pocket, which is children's clothing, Habitat for Humanities and refugee families. We donate 10 by 10 inch square Afghans, and there's one here, that is large enough to cover a double bed. We give one to each family. In 2019, we donated bunny loveys, hats, scarves, and mittens to people and children in refugee detainment centers. This project was coordinated with the El Paso, Texas UU Church. We also knitted Nest for Carolina Wildfowl Rescue, and we knit and crochet baby blankets that we use for child dedications right here at UUFR. Before COVID, I had the opportunity to drop off hats and scarves to Love Wins during their lunchtime. I enjoyed meeting the people who received the items. You can help by knitting or crocheting the 10 by 10 inch square for our ongoing project with refugees. Some members have donated yarn they no longer want. Please feel free to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Louise. I'm just going to provide a quick clarification. Today is not Justice Sunday. Today is our Justice Sunday Spotlight, which focuses on one of the ministries of our congregation. And the collection today is actually going to go to UUFR, as most of our collections on Sundays do. However, next week is going to be our monthly Justice Sunday collection, and I believe that the organization selected is Green Chair. So we are very grateful for your generosity today, and that supports our congregation, and next week it supports Green Chair. Thank you.
If you'd like to make a contribution this morning, we invite you to bring it forward and place it in one of these baskets, or you can give using any of the methods on our screen. It's now time for our offering. Please be generous, and thank you. Our reading this morning is a responsive one, so I'll begin and then please chime in on the refrain. If, recognizing the interdependence of all life, we strive to build community, the strength we gather will be our salvation. If you are black and I am white, if you are female and I am male, if you are older and I am younger, if you are progressive and I am conservative, if you are straight and I am gay, if you are Christian and I am Jewish, if we join spirits as brothers and sisters, the pain of our aloneness will be lessened, and that does matter. And now we'll have Lydia to do another song for us.
No, your mom don't get it, and your dad don't get it, Uncle John don't get it. And you can't tell Grandma 'cause her heart can't take it, and she might not make it. They say don't dare, don't you even go there, cutting off your long hair, you do as you're told. Till you wake up, go put on your makeup, this is just a phase you're gonna outgrow. There's something wrong in the village, in the village. Oh, 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 oh. They stare in the village, in the village. Oh, 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 oh. There's nothing wrong with you. It's true, it's true. There's something wrong with the village, with the village. There's something wrong with the village. Feel the rumors follow you from Monday all the way to Friday dinner. You got one day of shelter, then it's Sunday, hell to pay, you young lost sinner. Well, I've been there, sitting in that same chair, whispering that same prayer 500,000 times. It's a lie, though, buried in disciple. One page of the Bible isn't worth a life. There's something wrong in the village, in the village. Oh, 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 oh. They stare in the village, in the village. Oh, oh, oh. There's nothing wrong with you. It's true, it's true. There's something wrong with the village, with the village. There's something wrong with the village. Oh, there's something wrong with the village. There's something wrong with the village, in the village. Oh, 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 they stare in the village, in the village. Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. It's true, it's true. There's something wrong with the village, with the village. There's something wrong with the village.
Lydia and Scott, we're so blessed by your gift of music. Thank you. Well, both Reverend James and Reverend Sasha are out of the pulpit this morning, so it is my privilege to introduce our guest speaker, Rachel Wellons. She is a guest in the pulpit, but she is not a guest at UUFR. She is a new member. Rachel and her partner, Marcel Pulley, found us last summer. By December, they had signed the membership book, and now we have her up here giving a sermon. So don't worry, it's not a requirement for new members. But we appreciate Rachel's willingness to do it. She has been a librarian and a lawyer and is currently a stay-at-home parent to her and Marcel's 12-year-old son, Christopher. Please give her a warm welcome.
Good morning. Now, Sarah, I thought that was a requirement. Reverend James must have lied to me. Well, I guess it's too late now. For those who don't know me, and most of you probably haven't met me individually, my name is Rachel Wellons. I'm honored to be here this morning delivering today's Pride Sunday message. But before I begin, I feel I need to acknowledge the events of this past week. As you know, on Friday, the Supreme Court issued its decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, which eviscerated a woman's constitutional right to an abortion in this country. This is a seismic event in constitutional law and our nation's history. The Supreme Court's actions on Friday are going to have ripples and consequences for this nation that no one can foresee, not even those who push so hard for its results. People I know, men and especially women, are hurting and fearful at the court's action. Many of you may be too. I know I am. But just know this morning that you're not alone. Together we can and will figure out a path forward. It will just take time. Now, back to our regularly scheduled programming. A few weeks ago, when I started to consider what I wanted to say to you, I asked my partner, Marcel, what do you think straight people think about when they think about pride? And she responded after a second, they probably don't think much about it at all. And then after another brief pause, she said, and when they do, they probably only think about drag queens, men dressed in leather, and butch lesbians. Basically, a bunch of stereotypes. And that was the part she emphasized particularly. And personally, I think she's probably right. Pride celebrations do have a lot of drag queens and flamboyant gay men and butch women. They give the scene its flair and its fun, and I think that's awesome. Pride celebrations offer a rare chance for queer people to be authentic in this world without fear of censure and consequence. At Pride, you can be who you are unabashedly and without consequence. And I think that is how it should be. In a world that overtly pushes conformity at the expense of authenticity, Pride is a place to be free, to be who you are without judgment. It's a beautiful thing, and more spaces, safe spaces like Pride should exist. But Pride is about much more than parades and festivals and parties. Pride is an opportunity for a community to remember what life was like when queers had to exist in the shadows. It's a chance to honor those who came before us and fought for our rights to live open, authentic lives, to celebrate how far we've come and to recognize how far we have to go until true equality is reached. This Tuesday, the 28th, is the 53rd anniversary of the Stonewall Inn riot, which began the modern queer liberation movement. Now, before Stonewall, queer people existed in the periphery of society. Homosexuality itself was considered a mental illness and criminalized through sodomy laws. Gay and gender nonconforming people could be arrested and prosecuted if they dared to venture openly in straight society. Queer people were vulnerable to police shakedowns and blackmail because the social and legal costs of being queer were often so high. The Stonewall Inn riot was an inflection point in queer history. It energized the queer liberation movement in an unprecedented way and sparked a plethora of new queer rights organizations to fight for queer rights in the United States and indeed worldwide. And today, we can see how much these organizations have accomplished. The rainbow community has not achieved universal acceptance, but a record number of Americans, approximately 76%, now support queer rights. Since Stonewall, anti-sodomy laws across the United States have been overturned. Being queer is no longer illegal. Federal anti-discrimination protections have been extended to gays and the gender nonconforming. Queer people can no longer be fired or denied public accommodation simply for being who they are. Same-sex marriage in the U.S. is now legal. Queer people can now serve openly in the military. Queer people can even adopt children. One can argue, and I would agree, that this is the golden age of queer acceptance and equality. If it weren't, I hazard I would not be standing here before you today as an out and proud trans woman. And I wish that could be the whole story, that the rainbow community has overcome and that there's nothing left to do for us to gather and celebrate equality each June during Pride. But sadly, that isn't our reality. Let's remember this very crucial point. All of the federal civil rights protections now enjoyed by the rainbow community have come from U.S. Supreme Court decisions, not from legislative action. The Supreme Court decisions that banned sodomy and allowed gay marriage and extended Title VII anti-discrimination protections to the queer community were often decided by narrow 5-4 majorities that no longer exist. Today's iteration of the Supreme Court is the most conservative since the 1930s. And is to prove that very point, on Friday, in a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court struck down a woman's constitutional right to an abortion. At first glance, the fate of Roe v. Wade seems to have nothing to do with queer rights. It's about abortion, right? But bear with me for a moment. For the first time in U.S. history, the Supreme Court has revoked a constitutional right that it itself had granted, a widely supported right that millions of American women have relied upon for 49 years to navigate their private lives with dignity and autonomy. In Friday's opinion, a supermajority of the court held that a right to an abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history and traditions. In other words, the right to an abortion is not a historic right. It's a 20th century creation. Therefore, the court concluded a woman's right to an abortion is not constitutionally protected. The individual states may regulate or outright ban it as they please. Now, in 1986, the Supreme Court, in a case called Bowers versus Hardwick, used almost identical language and reasoning to uphold Georgia's power to criminalize sodomy between consenting adults in the privacy of their home. Now, Bowers was overturned in 2003, so it's been dead letter law for a very long time now. But on Friday, the Supreme Court reached back to revive Bowers' language and I think spurious reasoning to strip away a constitutional right for women that has existed for 49 years. As a queer person, I have to ask whether those same justices who just showed themselves willing to roll back a woman's right to an abortion might also be ready to roll back protections for other rights they deem not deeply rooted in the nation's history. And make no mistake, queer rights are not deeply rooted in our nation's history. Queer discrimination is absolutely deeply rooted, but queer rights, no. And truthfully, if I'm being honest, I'm worried. In his concurrence on Friday, Justice Thomas called for the court to review all substantive due process precedents, specifically He called out the right to privacy cases that had struck bans on birth control and legalized homosexuality and gay marriage. Now, Justice Thomas only has one voice, but as the senior associate Supreme Court justice, it's a powerful one. And it puts the public on notice that the court may be and probably is open for business if you want to challenge precedents you don't like, rights you don't feel should be granted. The Supreme Court may get its chance to rule on LGBTQ rights sooner rather than later. Conservative politicians in states across the nation are advocating for and passing laws that discriminate against the queer community. In Texas, the dominant political party just adopted a platform that called homosexuality an abnormal lifestyle choice. It then proceeded to state there should be no special legal entitlements or protections for homosexual behavior, and further, that people should be free to oppose homosexuality out of faith, conviction, or belief in traditional values without penalty. Now, this language should be shocking, but at least to me it's not. It just reflects the reality on the ground for many queer people across this country. It may not be safe to live open and authentic lives where you live. In the first 3 months of 2022 alone, over 300 anti-LGBTQ bills were introduced nationally. Conservative forces in Texas, Florida, and Alabama have been particularly successful in getting those measures enacted into law. There have been and will be challenges in federal courts to the validity of these laws, and these challenges may ultimately be decided in the Supreme Court. At such time we'll see how the justices actually decide. But in the meantime, laws like Florida's Don't Say Gay bill and Alabama's ban on providing gender-affirming care to transgender minors will have a detrimental, real-world consequence for people. Here in North Carolina, our legislature has been surprisingly quiet when it comes to anti-LGBTQ laws. Now, bills to block access to gender-affirming care for minors and to ban trans women from sports have been filed in the NC legislature, but so far they've died quietly in committee. In late May, however, the North Carolina Senate did pass HB 775, which is a slightly modified version of Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. As things stand today, in North Carolina anyway, HB 775 has no chance of passing Governor Cooper's desk without a veto. And the legislatures voted for it know that it's a dead-on-arrival bill. But its enactment in an election year is the very point. Certain politicians are willing to create anxiety and anger in the public's mind about an imaginary problem for political gain. No child, let me repeat that, no child in 3rd grade or younger is ever taught about sexual orientation or gender identity in the classroom. As a personal aside, I have a 12-year-old child, and if Christopher had been taught that, I probably would have been really upset too. HB 775 is simply political theater that cynically targets a vulnerable population without regard to the harm it may cause. My personal belief is that our having a governor who will veto anti-queer legislations has prevented our state from actively emulating states like Florida, Texas, and Alabama, and even Tennessee, which have passed the most egregious laws. And as a trans woman, I'm grateful that's the case. But I know such protection only exists in North Carolina as long as politicians who would push anti-queer legislation don't have a veto-proof majority. Depending on this November election results, they may have that veto-proof majority as soon as the next legislative session. And that's just a real possibility in a state government where the margins are just so thin. As a queer person, I can tell you that even if these bills and laws don't impact you directly, it's tiring and demoralizing to hear about them constantly. The message isn't subtle. It's a foghorn. If you're queer, you're less than. If you're queer, you're not welcome. The message seems to be, if we could get rid of you, we would. But since we can't get rid of you, we can at least make you hide. But I'm standing here today to say that I'm not going to hide. And the Rainbow family certainly isn't going to hide. We won't return to life as it was before Stonewall out of fear. Now is the time for bravery. Now is the time for action. Action not only from members of the queer community, but most importantly, by those who would call themselves allies. There are Christian denominations in the U.S. who find queerness to be the most egregious of sins, an unforgivable affront to God. But Unitarian Universalists are not among them. A core tenet of Unitarian Universalism is that we live more fully than we might otherwise when we commit ourselves to helping others live more fully as well. And through that tenet, we commit ourselves to the worth and dignity and potential of all people and to appreciate the deep diversity among us. UUFR, like most Unitarian congregations, is an LGBTQ welcoming congregation. It's made a promise, a commitment to welcome and accept queer people fully and without reservation into the fabric of congregational life. I'm here today because of that promise. I was seeking a spiritual home where I would be accepted and not just tolerated, and there is such a huge difference. And so far, I've found that here at UUFR. I've been welcomed to participate in congregational life as much as I want, including even delivering this message this Pride Sunday. So thank you all very much for allowing me to be here as an authentic person. But now I want to challenge every person in this congregation to do more, to carry the promises inherent in our being a welcoming congregation beyond the walls of this sanctuary. Be the ally queer people need in this world. Be a listener. Be open-minded. Be willing to talk with and not at a queer person. Don't assume you understand the queer community or the queer experience, because unless you're part of the Rainbow family, you probably don't. Ask questions respectfully and educate yourselves. This is particularly important. Don't assume that your family, friends, and coworkers are straight. Being straight may be a common condition, but that does not make it normative. Remember that anti-queer comments and jokes are harmful and hurtful. Don't give someone who makes one a pass. Let people know in the moment that you find their remarks offensive. Queer people are not walking stereotypes. You can't just look at someone and know whether they are members of the Rainbow family. Before I came out as transgender, I guarantee you no one ever suspected I was anything other than a straight man. I heard all the comments and jokes, and for better or worse, I classified people as a friend or foe by what was said and how they reacted. What you say or don't say to an anti-queer joke or comment can make a difference in a queer person's life, whether you know it or not. I challenge you to be a positive difference and not an unintentional source of pain and hurt to someone that you may love. And finally, advocate for anti-discrimination laws to protect your queer friends and family. Now, in the absence of state action, local communities and municipalities can pass anti-discrimination ordinances to protect their queer populations. Wake County did so last October, and 6 Wake County cities so far, including Raleigh and as of Thursday, Cary, have since adopted it. 7, however, have not, specifically Fuquay-Varina, Garner, Holly Springs, Rollsville, Wake Forest, and Zebulon. This is something we as a congregation and as individuals should fight for. We can advocate for those 7 remaining municipalities to adopt the Wake County Non-Discrimination Ordinance. And we can advocate for every municipality in Wake County, even those who've adopted the NDO, to do more to protect their queer citizens in employment, housing, and public accommodation. There's room for every city to improve. Start by finding your local representative's position on LGBTQ+ issues, and if it's not readily available, ask. Find how they plan to support the queer community and hold them responsible for their votes and actions. Circulate petitions demanding action and show up to meetings so elected officials see the actual voters behind the name on the petitions. Make it so they can't ignore or just give lip service to rainbow issues without consequence. As Reverend James likes to point out, local elections turn on small numbers of votes, and elected officials know that, and they will respond if they see their constituents really care. And if they don't respond, we can vote them out and replace them with politicians that will. Sometimes issues and problems at a national and even state level seem hopeless. How can one voice matter? How can a congregation's collective voice matter? It's frustrating and can lead even the most optimistic of us to despair. But we have power to change. We have the power in our own backyards and communities, power that can't be taken away from us if we dare to use it. So let's use it to advance queer equality for our families, our friends, and our neighbors. Queer rights are human rights. And when the human rights of one group are threatened, the rights of everyone are threatened. Now, friends, I know this has been a heavy message, but on Pride Sunday, I feel it's a necessary one. And at its core, though, I really feel this is a message of hope. I believe the tide of history is with the advancement of human rights, which by definition includes queer rights. Look at where we are today. The Rainbow family now has rights and acceptance that would have been unimaginable at the time of Stonewall. And the backlash against those gains is proof of that progress. While work remains to be done, the tide of progress can't be thwarted unless we as individuals and a collective fail to stand together with our queer friends and neighbors. Small differences in the aggregate can lead to big changes, but it takes faith and it takes perseverance. This applies not only to the fight for LGBTQ+ rights, but in the fight for racial justice, affordable housing, and every other social justice issue this congregation fights for. Never let anyone, including yourself, convince you otherwise. And in the words of that great man or woman, RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how the hell can you love anyone else? Can I get an amen up in here? Amen. So may it be.
Thank you, Rachel. We're so happy to have you and Marcel and Christopher as part of our UUFR family. Please stand as you are able as Diane and John lead us in our closing hymn, number 170, We Are a Gentle, Angry People.
We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing for our lives. We are gay and straight together, and we are singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing for our lives.
I hope you will join us for social hour on the porch, or if you're online in one of our Zoom rooms. But for now, as we end this time of worship together, may we do so with ever more love for one another, with ever more gratitude for the precious gift of life we share this very day, with ever more peace in our hearts, and with ever more hope for our own lives and for this world that we share. Amen.